Good evening, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission General Session meeting for this Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. Before we get into our business of our meeting, I'd like to make sure everyone is aware that we do have public comment periods available, one at the beginning of our meeting, prior to any discussion, deliberation, or vote on any agenda items. That public comment period is reserved for discussion of agenda items. And then we have another public comment period at the end of the meeting, and that's on any topic you wish to discuss. In either case, you'll have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks. We do ask you to complete a public comment form at the back of the room. When completing that, please provide your name and home address. Note I will not be sharing your home address during this meeting, nor will I be asking you to share your home address during the meeting. That will be held in confidence. During public comment, it is a time for you to share your thoughts, your perspective, your views, your passions with us. It is not necessarily a time for a question and answer. If you do have questions, we can connect you with the appropriate resources and staff personnel to address your questions at the opportune time after the meeting. And of course, we're also around after the meetings if you want to speak to any of us directly individually. Please refrain from any commentary outbursts from the audience. Maintain decorum. If you do have something to say, we encourage you to avail yourself of the public comment period. For folks watching on live stream or on cable TV, we do have a public comment period that you can phone in, or you can phone in during our public comment period. A phone number will be displayed on screen, and you can call in, and you'll be welcome to provide up to 3 minutes to provide remarks at that time as well. Before we get into our business, we are going to be led in prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wish to join us for either portion, I do ask you to stand if you're so able to do so. And we're going to be led in prayer this evening by Deacon Rex Greer of Zion Baptist Church.
Let us be in the attitude of prayer. Our Father and our God, we come this evening thanking you, Lord, for all your many blessings. Master, we thank you for just giving us a mind to come out and take care of the business of this great city. Lord, we come asking you to please have mercy on us, forgive us for all of our sins. And then, Lord, we just thank you for this council this evening. Master, we pray for them, Master, as they make tough decisions on this evening. Lord, we thank you, Master, for giving them a mind and a will to come out and handle the business of this city. Lord, we thank you for all your many blessings. We thank you for this city, Master. We thank you for its leaders, realizing, Lord, that we are living in some hard times and that we are having to make hard decisions, but we are praying and depending on you this evening. Lord, we pray that the things that are done here will be pleasing and deserving in thy sight. Master, we thank you in advance for all the things that you have done, the things that you are doing now, and the things that you are going to do. Lord, we pray that you will just be with us. Keep this city, Master, but not only this city, the surrounding cities, Lord, Muskegon Heights, Northern Shores, Master, whatever city surrounds this city, Master, just pray that you would just keep your hand of protection around us. But not only, Master, this city, but this entire land and country. For we need you, Master, down here, and realizing that we just can't get along without you. Master, we pray for all leaders of this great city. We pray that you would just lead them, that they can make the right decisions for the people of this place. Master, we pray that the things that are done here will be pleasing in thy sight. We pray, Master, for our youth. I know we are in a meeting this evening, Master, but we're praying for our younger youth this evening. Pray, realizing, Lord, that one day that they may be sitting in the mayor's seat, they may be sitting in the council seat. Lord, just give them a mind to run on just a little while longer and see what the end may be. Master, we pray that everything that are done here would be pleasing to you, Lord. We pray, Lord, that as questions are asked, that their questions can be asked decently and in order. But after they ask their question, Master, that you would give them the answer that they are looking for. Lord, but in all things, we pray that you would be the one that lead and guide this meeting. These blessings and all blessings we ask in thy darling son, Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Deacon. All right, may we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Hood,
Here.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Here.
Vice Mayor German,
Here.
Commissioner Gorman,
Here.
Commissioner Emery,
Here.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. All right. Before we get on to the consent agenda, I do have one public comment form. That will be at the end of the meeting. That's general public comment. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to give comment on an agenda item? And can we get that? There we go. The phone number just started scrolling. So we'll give that a minute or two. There's still takers for public comment from the audience. If anyone wishes to give a comment on an agenda item, there are forms at the back of the room. We encourage you to complete that form and hand that to our clerk. Clerk Mish or Deputy Clerk? Kim. Young. Not Grim anymore. Young. We'll just give it another moment while the phone-in number is scrolling on the screen. No calls?
No, Mayor.
All right. Then we're going to proceed with our consent agenda. Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the items on consent. Are there any items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration, deliberation, and vote? Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Item 7D and 7E. Just like to have a little discussion on those.
Any other items, Commissioners? Commissioner Ramsey.
7H and 7K, Mr. Mayor.
Any other items, Commissioners? All right. I'm going to entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented, minus items 7D, 7E, 7H, and 7K.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented minus items 7D, 7E, 7H, and 7K.
Support?
All right. Motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Ramsey. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. First up, item 7D, approval of contract for mediation and restorative services. Vice Mayor German.
Yes, I move to approve the contract with mediation and restorative services and to authorize staff to sign.
Support.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Commissioner St. Clair, being reported out by our Planning and Economic Development Director, Mike Franzik. Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Director Francis, thank you for being here. Just like for you to just kind of give us a little history and how we got here and what this item is all about.
Yeah, so this initiative is being funded by the Muskegon Social Equity Program. We had funding for last year for education, and this initiative is to educate at-risk teens about vaping, nicotine and marijuana, and trying to set them on the right path with the education about that. Through these services, we had the work session a couple of months ago where they described what they were doing. They'll be hiring a full-time person over the next 13 months, And there's a list of things in the contract that they will be providing in terms of prevention, working with them before they even get in trouble, and to steer around these issues.
Right, right. Great. I think it's a good investment. Um, Definitely with the concerns of consuming marijuana at early ages. I see that a lot, and I've seen it a lot as an educator and working in this field with at-risk youth. And you mentioned the social equity funds, which is going to be allocated for this program. Now, my next question would be, are these going to be volunteers that's going to be doing the mediation, or do they have to be a licensed mediator to do this kind of work?
I'm not sure if there's anybody here from Mediation Services. I don't know if they can make it tonight, but they are going to be hiring an actual staff person. So they do have trained people who are certified running this organization, and they're going to be hiring a 13-month position for this, just for.
Yeah. All right. I think it's a very important program, and I definitely support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. I did hear from the Executive Director, Jackie Hallberg. She was not able to make it this evening. She extended her request for not being able to make it, but that she did confirm that she has hired someone. They'll be starting promptly once this is approved, and that it is a city resident that she hired as well. And she, of course, as we know, because she used to work for us, she herself has a master's in social work, and she has a number of certifications. The executive director was speaking of. I don't know the person that she's hired, but it is. She did confirm it was a city resident who is excited about doing this work, and I'm happy that we're able to support this kind of work with our excise tax revenues collected from the cannabis operations, and we were intentional in using it for various different purposes. One of which was educational outreach, and I think it is good for us to be trying to promote and educate and encourage our youth to make healthier choices. And that does not include use of nicotine and cannabis while still developing themselves. So I fully support this. Commissioners, are there any other questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Ramsey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Francis, for getting up and sharing this with us tonight. I, along with the Vice Mayor, think that this is an amazing opportunity. I'm so excited that we're engaging in it and that we have the funds to be able to do that from those taxes. I remember when Jackie and her team came and presented, and we had a lengthy conversation about all this, and I'm very excited about it. I would just like to remind us that we need to look at, in partnership with Mediation and Restorative Services, those data points that we'll be collecting throughout the next 13 months so that they can support a narrative that at the end of 13 months, we will be able to justify this work, not only through the outcomes, but through the effect that it's had on our community, or what we would call an impact. And then we can publish an impact report that we can share with all of our neighbors so that we can look at how the dollars being used are going towards great things, so that if something were to happen and these funds were not available again, that we could see the value added by this program and how many lives have been truly affected long term.
Yep. I think that's a requirement in the contract, so they will be providing that data so we can make a report and potentially try to get more funding for it next year as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey and Director Franzek. Ms. Hallberg also indicated that she's happy to come to the commission and provide periodic updates. Doesn't have to wait till after the 13th month. You know, she can be here quarterly if we would like her to be here just to update us on what's going on and what progress they're making. Commissioner St. Clair.
Thank you. I also spoke to Ms. Hallberg about this, and she was very excited about the staff person that they had lined up, and had identified that the individual was from the community, looks like the people who live here, was young enough to be relatable, but old enough to have some authority. So she was really excited about that individual and the work that they would be able to do. So I am very much in support of this.
Thank you, Commissioner St. Clair. Any other commissioners have questions or comments on this item before we go to vote? All right, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, item 7E, the MEDC, or Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Revitalization and Placemaking 1.0 grant. I try not to use acronyms, at least spelling them out. Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you. Again, Mayor, I move to approve the resolution of support and authorize the clerk to sign the MEDC RAP 1.0 Grant Development Services.
Support.
I have a motion by Vice Mayor German, supported by Commissioner St. Clair. This item is being reported out by our Development Services Director, Jake Ekholm. Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Director Eckham, thank you for being present today. Just like for you to update the commission and also give the public a view of what's happening with this project, and if we could actually have the developers or anyone that's part of the project come up to the podium as well and just kind of expound on it.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity, Vice Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Commission. So, as we know, the city did very well in the first RAP, redevelopment and placemaking competitive grant process through MEDC last year. We achieved a total of $6 million, which was to be divided between 2 development projects in the downtown that will provide attainable housing and mixed-use development for Western Avenue and First Street, all in the immediate downtown corridor. So 880 First Street LLC, who are here tonight and I'm sure can speak briefly on their project. They have another agenda item as well this evening. And then Lakeview Lofts, who sends their regrets they could not be here. They have another appointment out of the area. So the process that we're going through is the same process that we went through for our own ARP dollars. So these were the state's American Rescue Plan Act dollars, $100 million pot of money. And so we're required as subrecipients to enter into subrecipient agreements with the folks that we're distributing these grants to. You'll recall when we had beneficiaries or subrecipients of our own RAP dollars, we had to enter into similar agreements. So that's the process we're asking for you to approve tonight, so that we then have the authority to disperse funds pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act.
Okay. If
Before we
okay.
before we call up any other members,
I'm sorry.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff on this item right now? All right. Welcome, members of the development team for 881st Street. Would anyone or all of you like to get up and speak on this item and update us on where things at with the project? I'm more familiar with these ladies over here, so I'm folks getting them. Gentlemen.
Everyone knows Brianna Scott, you know, so, my name is Eric Hilzer. I'm with Advanced Redevelopment Solutions, working with the development team. We do have another agenda item, and I have a PowerPoint presentation, so I'm not going to say a lot right now, but I would like to address one item that is an important critical component of the RAP grant, and that is for the workforce housing. So in the application, we had to commit to a certain percentage of the project. I'm happy to say, even after the time that has gone by over the last year and what is on the agenda item with the brownfield that's coming before you, our count right now, based on our market study that we just completed recently, 6 of our units are below 120% of the area median income, 46 are below 100, and 5 of them are below 80. So we are in a true sweet spot for workforce housing, attainable housing on our project, and that's a total of our 57 units. I'm going to have some great imagery and give you an update and a status on the project and where we're at with everything here briefly, but happy to answer any questions on the RAP if you have it.
Excellent, thank you. Vice Mayor German, any
Yes.
questions with regard to the grant itself?
Yes. Well, congratulations, and it's good to see that this project is moving forward, and that you're partnering with the city to help enhance the development downtown. Also, you just kind of give us an idea of when ground is going to be broken. That's one of the questions that my constituents and the public wants to know. They're excited about the project, and also if I can get Ms. Scott to come up, and if she would like to say something, because like Mayor said, we're familiar with you, nothing against you, sir.
Totally
but we try to be as inclusive as possible.
Sure,
So, yeah.
sure. As far as the schedule and status on the project, once the brownfield, hopefully tonight, is adopted, we do have to go before Michigan Economic Development Corporation for an Act 381 work plan. That is anywhere from a 3 to 6 month process. It also involves Michigan Community Revitalization Program loan. MCRP as it's called. So those two, the work plan application, which is the second counterpart to the brownfield plan, as well as the loan, and there's also a small grant associated with that. So MEDC is the final approval that we need. So we anticipate we'll have that in the winter. Keep our fingers crossed the way the state's process goes, and that means a spring start. So everything, these are the final pieces to everything that we've been working on.
So, and we don't have a completion date as of right now, but you're
So
still
our
waiting.
contractor has been telling us anywhere from 2 to 3 years. So materials are starting to open up a little bit better. Mechanicals, electricals, anything from transformers to controllers, those kind of things are delaying projects by as many as 6 months. So there's a lot of projects and some of our other projects that are under construction that are delayed by as much as 6 months because we just can't get some of the pieces and parts to finish off the building. So our contractor, Earhart Construction, is telling us 24 to 36 months for construction. So if it starts in the spring, then you're looking at 2 to 3 years from there.
Okay. Now, just in case anyone else has any questions.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. Commissioners, any questions or comments on the grant at this time? And we'll be hearing more
Thank you.
during the brownfield portion of tonight's meeting. Thank you. And refresh my memory in your name, sir. I'm sorry.
Eric Helzer.
Helzer?
Helzer.
Eric Helzer. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Helzer. All right.
Want
Any-
Ms. Scott to come up if she wouldn't mind.
Well, maybe she might find it more timely to come up during the brownfield
Oh,
portion.
okay. We definitely want to hear from you.
Yeah. They have a presentation prepared.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
Yes.
that's good. Okay.
Any final thoughts, commissioners, before we go to a roll call? Nope. Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Did you get the mayor?
I don't know, I somehow.
Well, it's a yes. I don't recall my name. It's a yes regardless. 7H, real estate purchase agreement for the splash pad with the Downtown Muskegon Development Center Number 2 Association in the City of Muskegon. Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes, I would like to move to motion to approve the real estate purchase agreement made between Downtown Muskegon Development Center Number 2 Association and the City of Muskegon for the purchase of Unit 10, the property, referred to as the Western Avenue Splash Pad, authorizing the Deputy City Manager to sign.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Gorman. This is being led out by Contessa Alexander with our Development Services Division, Economic Development. Commissioner Ramsey.
Yeah. Contessa, could you just walk our neighbors at home through what exactly this means in lay terms?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep, good evening, everyone. So, Downtown Muskegon Development Center Number 2, or DMDC2, has submitted a purchase agreement for the splash pad, which Michael included is Unit 10, which the DMDC2 encompasses boundaries that includes 10 units between Terrace, Morris, First, and Clay. And Unit 10 is the splash pad. And prior to me coming to the City of Muskegon, there were conversations about the splash pad being transferred from DMDC2 to the City of Muskegon. So that's what this purchase agreement is here for. And it also eliminated Unit 10, the splash pad, from DMDC2. So there will be some cost for closing costs, which will be split up between each member, which includes 4 members, Dave Dusendang, Aaron Mackey, John Rooks, and myself, representing the City of Muskegon. Those costs will be $1,188.75, which includes the title company fee, recording fee, legal fees, and additional survey fees if approved tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any follow-up, Commissioner Ramsey?
No, sir.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments on this item? Thank you, Mrs. Alexander. And also I want to express thanks to our DPW, our Department of Public Works, for getting our splash pad up and operating this season. It has been put to very good use in recent weeks with the heat that we've been experiencing. Upgrades are forthcoming though, so that's still to come, and we're going to see continued improvement with the splash pad. But I just want to give a special shout out and thanks to DPW for getting that splash pad up and running. Commissioner Hood?
Question. Is this going to be the second? We're going to have 2 splash pads downtown?
This is the one that is presently downtown, known as Alcoa Square.
Okay, so this is just improvements to that.
We're going to be taking possession of the property in which it sits. Right now it's part of the Downtown Muskegon Development Corporation and their subdivision of their property, and so we're going to be taking ownership of that particular property on which the splash pad is sited.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mrs. Alexander. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor German?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, item 7K, Water and Sewer Systems Debt Service Fee. Commissioner Ramsey.
Motion to approve the resolution establishing the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 debt service fees for the water and sewer system.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Vice Mayor German, and we're being led out on this item by our DPW Director, Dan Vanderhyde. Welcome. Commissioner Ramsey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan, we have discussed this at length at several meetings, and so I'm not trying to rehash any of that. I would just like for you to once again remind our neighbors at home, in digestible terms, what exactly this is going to look like, what it's going to do, and when they can expect it to.
Sure. So, as you've said, we've covered this a few times, including at the March work session meeting, but the gist of this is that moving a portion of the water and sewer fees and rates that our residents pay from what we call the commodity rate, which is the amount you pay per amount of water or sewer that you use, taking a portion of that and putting it into the debt service fee. A debt service fee is intended to capture specifically the portion of debt payment that the system is going to pay each year. So each year at this time we'll reevaluate that amount. This particular year, those systems paid about $1.2 million in debt on the water side and about $475,000 on the sewer side. That amount is being split per account in the city, and that fee on the bill will pay for the debt that the system had to pay for. The benefit to our residents really is transparency. Each time this commission approves improvements to the water system that are going to be paid by debt funding, you and the public will have the opportunity to see what we estimate that impact will have on the debt service fee. And so each time a project is proposed, we can better make that decision about its effectiveness and its reasonableness based on the direct cost it will have on the bill each resident and business will pay.
Thank you, Director Vanderhyde. Any follow-up, Commissioner Ramsey?
Absolutely not.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments on this item? All right. I know we've talked about it at several meetings. Alrighty, so now this is given the final authorization to proceed with this new debt service fee on our water and sewer bills.
And I think I neglected to answer one of Commissioner Ramsey's specific questions, which is this will go into effect on July 1.
Thank you.
And it will be reevaluated each year around that time and will change on July 1 with our fiscal change.
And it will be a communication will be inserted in a water and sewer bill, communicating this charge and what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to be working with our water billing office, Sarah Wilson, the treasurer, to include in the message portion of each bill that first time a brief explanation and an offer to, talk with anyone who'd like more information.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is the only follow-up I have, I promise. Love the idea of the insert in the bill, and you just sort of alluded to it, but will there be a phone number that someone could call, should they, or an email or a fax that they could FAQ, frequently asked questions sheet online or something, so that people don't have to come all the way down here on a Tuesday at 5:30 to yell at us about this.
Absolutely. They can always call the number on the water bill, and anyone in the building office or Public Works would be happy to talk with them about it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Any thoughts or questions arise in the last couple minutes? Okay, great. Thank you, Director Vanderhyde. Roll call, please.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, public hearing for Brownfield Plan Amendment for 881st Street and 216 West Clay Avenue. Ms. Contessa Alexander's joining us again. This is a public hearing, and so we're going to be first report out to us, and then we'll receive the presentation, and then open it up to public comment from anyone in the audience or folks at home wanting to phone in, and then we'll close the public hearing, and that's when so I was thinking we were going to wait till after we close the public hearing to field any questions from the commission, but we'll do that during the presentation because I know some of the commissioners may want to speak with the developers directly or pose questions directly. So we'll do it in that order then. Please proceed.
Hello again. So 881st Street LLC has submitted a brownfield plan amendment for 881st Street rehabilitation and new construction project, which is located at 881st Street and 216 West Clay Avenue. This is a $28.8 million mixed-use redevelopment project with a total of 109 new jobs, rentable commercial business space, multi-purpose and co-working and event space, and 57 multi-family residential apartments offering attainable workforce housing between 80% and 120% of the AMI. Construction is scheduled to begin in spring of 2024. The total plan capture will be for 35 years beginning in 2025, which will be a total of $13.5 million in total capture. And as mentioned, we do have Eric here who would like to give a presentation.
Thank you, Analyst Alexander, and welcome back, Mr. Helzer.
Thank you. All right. Awesome. There we go. Okay, well, thank you for having me back in. I'm going to go quickly through these. Everybody kind of knows where the property is, and I want to leave enough time for questions in case there are any. As you all know, that this is sitting in the heart of the city. It's a skeletal steel structure. It's been vacant, blighted, abandoned, and is also contaminated, which I'll get into in a little bit, which is hence why we are doing some of the brownfield costs for the environmental. None of the structures that are there, there's actually two distinct structures. There is the tall bank building that's on the corner, and then there's single story. They are independent structures. It is currently zero tax base because it is city owned. And this is the property that we're specifically redeveloping. The reason the adjacent parking lot is a part of this, it's a very small sliver, is that right behind the back of curb where that parking lot is, that'll allow us to maintain and develop that effectively. Currently, the property boundaries on this, because of the vacation of First Street, are actually in the middle of First Street and the middle of the alley. So it's quite a lot larger piece of property. So we have spent a lot of time working with the city and working with our engineers to actually figure out what we're going to be left with. And so we're going to have to amend our purchase agreement. One of the things that's going to be in there is defining the actual buildable property, which is going to be to the face of the building. So that yellow line that you see there is going to be the face front of the building, all the way around on three sides except for on the parking lot side, which will be back of the existing curve of that parking lot. So the brownfield plan that's before you, we're able to get a final ALTA from our engineers and legal description, which is now in the city hands for review. So our plan is to complete the asbestos that's there. We unfortunately discovered a significant amount of asbestos abatement on the property that was still needed, almost $300,000 worth. So that has to be completed along with the environmental in order to affect the completion of the construction of the new building that I'll show you here. That's going to be what we call the infill building in the dirt lot adjacent to both of those structures. So we're going to be spending about $6.5 million in brownfield costs. So the 109 jobs is based on 100 of construction jobs based on our contractor, just a little more than 100. Will be employed during the construction over a 2 to 3 year period, and then based on the commercial space square footage that we have in there, 9 full jobs. So it's a significant investment. It's a property everybody wants to see developed. It's been attempted a couple of times before. We have really advanced this project more than anybody else. We have well over $1 million into this project. With the structure itself and not having any current building plans, we had to do quite a forensic evaluation on the building after the demolition on the structural stability of it as well as the foundations, and that's on both buildings. We're also looking at, and you'll see here, we have a rooftop amenity in the single-story building, and there was further study that was needed there. The dirt lot itself had a lot of unconsolidated loose material that is contaminated dirt, which needs to be removed as a part of our construction process to gain access to their underground basements and construct the infill building, which I'll show you here in a little bit. So it's 57 units. There's 10 studios, 42 one-bedrooms, and 5 two-bedroom apartments that are associated with it. I went through the AMI, area medium income breakdown a little bit ago. We have about 1,400 square foot along First Street. That is a dual-purposed commercial space. It is a trainer studio that will be housing trainers, physical trainers that will have private sessions for anybody in the community that would like to train with a particular trainer. It also has 24-hour access to the residents that live in the building as a 24-hour full-service gym. It's a workout facility. We also have a 7,700 square foot collaborative co-working / convention space. It's a very flexible space that the building residents, when it's not rented out, will be able to use, but it will be able to house receptions, business meetings, parties. It does not have a full kitchen. It is basically a catered station. It has coolers, it'll have freezers, it'll have serving areas, and that also has access to the rooftop where they can transition from meetings over to a dinner and what have you. So it's quite a multi-function space, and I think it will be a nice add to the downtown. This gives you a breakdown. I'm not going to go through everything, but there is a ton of amenities that are in the building. You can go ahead and kind of skim that list here, but it really is going to be a place that people are going to want to live. We also have, because of the basements that we have on the property, very large, deep basements, we're going to have storage facilities that are going to be available, very large and small storage units that tenants can rent right on spot. So the nice thing is they have a smaller apartment. They can house a lot of their seasonal things, recreational type items. Tons of bike storage in the basement. We also have a dog wash station, pet grooming, bike repair facility with all the tools, everything that you would need. So really a nice amenity for the tenants. And then on the first floor, we have a lot of areas that are breakout areas, very private or public, and they can go get out of the room, escape. There's Zoom rooms, some conference rooms that people can go to if they need to make a private webinar or call. So some really nice amenities for them. I went by 1, 2. So from a breakdown, just to understand what we're going after, we talked about it briefly. We're talking about the brownfield here today. We got to go before MEDC for that work plan. Other funding that is going into this project in parallel is a tax abatement. We talked about the RAP here a short while ago, and then the CRP grant and loan. So there's a before and after shot. Nice image. You can see the infill building that is on the left side of that. That is a 4-story portion. That's a top 1 floor, so a total of 5. The existing building that's on the corner right now is 5 stories. We are actually adding a 6th floor to that. Through our studies, and it's probably for a few of you that's seen another presentation that we did some time ago, pre-COVID and pre the construction prices, we were looking at adding an additional 5 stories on top of the existing 5. Due to costs and unfortunately construction materials that have on this particular project added millions already, but added many more millions if we would have gone up and doubled the height of this building. We have elected to go with 1 story. It's a light load steel that we can effectively add a 6th floor to it. This is a First Street elevation on the left that you see there. That's a night image. The infill building, as we call it, which is 100% new construction, is designed to look different, but it is part of the entire project. It is attached. We are sharing the common elevator that's existing, that elevator bay, that it's a dual elevator bay that is in the middle of that building for both of those buildings. And then the one on the right is the Clay Avenue elevation. We are also adding on top of the 1-story building a couple of apartments to give us some more units there, and that is right above the conference center that is on Clay. So you can see a 2nd story, and that is only on the face, only on the street side. This gives you a bird's eye view down on the bottom right corner there of the 2 rooftop amenities. So the one that's on the lower level will be for tenants when not in use or not rented, but it also will be available for anybody that wants to rent that particular space. The upper level is private to the tenants. That is on the new construction building, so it's effectively on a 6th floor, but on the rooftop, and that will have nice views looking toward the lake and toward Western Avenue. The other view is a nice view for the parking lot. Just to give you an idea, we're trying to be cognizant, working with staff, of the elevation, not having just a big blank stale wall there. We did add some windows. We did add some artwork that yet is to be determined. There's a graphic that was placed there, and along with some landscaping to break up that elevation, especially when you're looking from the farmer's market. You know, you don't want to see this big blank wall that's sitting there, so it'll be a little bit more attractive. And this gives some images of each of those rooftop amenities. That is the 6th floor on the upper left, and then the multi-purpose roof deck on the lower. We talked about the dollars and cents of all this. This is a very long brownfield plan. Unfortunately, with all of the extraordinary costs and only having 57 units, what we're looking at is a 30-year brownfield. We have planned for 35 to allow for your local site revolving capture for the city. And with 0 tax base and going up in total annual taxes, we have a taxable value that's a little more than $3.3 million. So quite a substantial add. Won't go through this breakdown as much, except to let you know the state is involved. There is an MBRF fund portion of this project of $274,000 that's involved, and then the local capture into your local fund is a little more than $870,000. So obviously we're here to look at adopting this. I know you have a public hearing, and I can answer any questions or go back to any images if you need further explanations. And a little bit fast.
Excellent. Great presentation. Just there's really quite a bit in there and so much to like. Before we open up to public comment, I'm going to invite the commission to weigh in with any questions or comments of your own at this time. We will certainly welcome anyone else in the development team to come up, in particular Ms. Scott, to speak. But commissioners first, questions for Mr. Helzer. Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Alves, you mentioned, was it a 30-year plan for, is that tax capturing?
Correct.
Yeah, and that's totaling, what, was that 13 million? I mean.
Yeah, so we will not be getting fully reimbursed. About half of that will end up getting reimbursed. So that is the unfortunate part. Most of that is due to the 30-year plans due to interest, which is afforded by the plan. So the only way we could actually reimburse that amount is if taxable value does go up. And if costs go down, obviously, then less would be reimbursed. We like to reflect the full amount, even though we have a shortfall of a better than $7 million. But the other programs are there to help make up that gap. And that gap. Most of this is state tax capture. And we're going to be seeking MEDC and for the state school portion of tax capture.
Okay, great. Just another question. Also, you mentioned 109 jobs coming to the city of Muskegon, which is
Most of those are construction.
Construction
Yeah,
jobs.
a little over 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll be seeking what, labor contracts? Union contractors, or how are you going to go about it?
I'm glad you asked this question. So this is something that we've been working carefully with Ms. Scott on. It is very important to her that we hire local. So we have instructed our contractor to work with local trades, no matter what size, and they are even willing to partner with them to help train. And so we've done this on other projects across the state. This is not atypical for us to be involved with some requests like this. And we have initiated that process already with Earhart Construction.
Well, that's great to hear, because there are a lot of startup new contractors out there looking for jobs and opportunities to contract and partner with the city and local, developers. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German. Commissioner Emery?
Hi, Mike. When is move-in date? When can I move in? No. It's gorgeous, and I want to say thank you to Ms. Scott and her whole team for undertaking such a daunting task, and investing in our beautiful city, Muskegon. I can't wait until it's done. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. It's been a long road.
Thank you, Commissioner Emery. Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question I'm about to ask you, I do not expect you to answer with concrete statements. But if everything goes as planned, when would you guys like to break down, and when would you like to be built?
So
how long is that window?
we plan on starting construction in spring of 2024. That's the plan, and that's based on the amount of time it's going to take for us to complete our process with the state to get the financing in. And then we would like to, a project normally like this is less than 24 months. Unfortunately, with everything that we've been experiencing because of the COVID, even though it's kind of a little bit behind us, unfortunately with the materials and construction, we're being told it could take as long as 3 years. So it's they always say on a project of this scale to add anywhere from 6 to 12 months, and that's anywhere in the state we're being told that.
My only concern, I have one follow-up, Mr. Mayor, and it's not, concern is not my worry, is that as these things take so much time, they end up costing so much more money. And so while you guys are going elbow deep into these projects, I would just encourage you to stay in communication with offices here at the city. So if there's something that we can help to advocate for as you move forward, because there's no lumber or no bricks or no brown paint or whatever it is, right? That you have someone in your corner who's willing to go to bat and talk about the great work that's being done and how it's a huge benefit to our community. Because nothing is ever like they say it's going to be. And so I just want to make sure that you guys have support from us.
Appreciate it.
I have nothing else.
Commissioner Ramsey. Any other questions, commissioners? All right. Thank you, Mr. Helzer.
Thank you.
Ms. Scott, if you could share your name and your organization.
I'm Brianna Scott, and I'm with 880 First Street. I just wanted to come up and first off say there are so many new commissioners since the last time I was presenting before this commission, and that really evidences how very long this project has been. Regardless of the length of this project, the excitement that I have for it remains. I am hopeful that after you all have seen this presentation, I would like to thank Eric for all of the hard work he put in. He makes us all look really good. And also Chris, who was with us. I'd like to acknowledge as well my mom and Deborah, Aslan Scott and Deborah Hendrickson, who are also part of the team that are here. It has really been a labor of love. This has been something that came from a dream to now we actually have plans that you can see, and I know that it is going to be just as beautiful as we have presented it to be, and even more rewarding for me once we are actually able to break ground and actually walk in and hopefully rent one of these units to Commissioner Emery so that she can move in. So I am looking forward to this, but I just wish to thank the city. I wanted to take this time to really let you know how very grateful. I get a little bit emotional because I, at some points in time, especially after COVID and with the numbers increasing, started to even doubt for myself whether this was ever going to really happen, and had a lot of sleepless nights over this project. I would like to thank you all for being patient with us. I would like to thank the city for being patient. I can't tell you how many times I have attended events or just been walking back and forth to court and got hemmed up, or at meetings and got hemmed up by some of you commissioners asking for updates on what we were doing with this project. People are very anxious to see this come to life. They're very sick of seeing the eyesore that we have before us. So again, I'd like to thank you all for the patience that you've had and continuing to believe in us, and that we are going to do what we said we would. This is hopefully going to be an inspiration for others that look like me, as I've stated before, and other people that are young that have these audacious dreams for what they can achieve if they put their minds to it. And it also, for me, has allowed me to develop more as an individual, to also have more grace and more patience in myself. It's been a learning curve for me. I can't explain to you how many times I butted heads with Eric and Chris over what I want versus what we can do and what's possible. But they have continued to work with me to try to help me to learn in this process, which to me is very important, because I hope this isn't the only project that I get to bring back to this community. Again, I hope to be an inspiration. I hope this to be a beacon of light in this community, a very inclusive and diverse experience for all of us that get to experience the space that will be yet to be named, but that is 880 First Street at this time. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, and it's going to be well worth the wait.
It will be.
Before you go anywhere, commissioners,
Sorry.
do you have any questions for Ms. Scott that you'd like to ask?
I have just one.
Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, just more of a comment, and also to echo what Commissioner Emery said. Ms. Scott, congratulations on you and your team. Well done. And being on this commission for the last 12 years, we've seen the attempt to develop this property. And I give kudos to those who attempted. But you guys have put your heads together and collectively got the job done, working with the city. And it's just been a pleasure working with you all and seeing you get to this point where now you're actually getting ready to break ground. Ms. Scott, you also said something about a dream. And I truly believe that if you dream it, you can achieve it. And being an inspiration and a role model to other young ladies like yourself, and being a black woman in this type of business is going to really inspire more to want to do more. So thank you for your contributions, your team, and Ms. Scott also, as well as you. Thank you.
You're here.
And much success.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah.
Commissioners, Commissioner Hood.
Well, Miss Scott, I am lost for words for your perseverance through all the trials and tribulations you've had with this project. Um, and speaking of inspiration, I mean, we are proud of you, men, women, this community, especially the community that looks like us. We are proud of you, and we pray for you.
Thank you. I need those prayers.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm just overwhelmed that this is going to happen, and I'm just can't wait to see it.
I wish
Thank
you
you.
would still be on the commission when it does, but hopefully you'll be at the groundbreaking, right?
I'll be at the groundbreaking. I'll be
Right.
home.
Okay.
I'll be at the groundbreaking.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner
Yes,
Hood.
ma'am.
I appreciate it.
Well said. Thank you, Commissioner Hood.
Well, thank you.
Anyone else wishes to ask or add anything at this time? All right. Thanks so much, Ms. Scott.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
joining us
Thank
this
you all.
This is a public hearing. If we get the phone number scrolling while I invite anyone in the audience to give comment. Is there anyone in the audience? Just waiting for the phone number to scroll. There we go. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to give public comment? I thought the number was about to scroll. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to give public comment at this time on this particular item? I heard an amen from you earlier. You want to add something now? You want to reiterate your amen? Another amen. Okay. All right, we'll just give it a moment for the phone number to scroll. See if anyone wishes to give public comment during this public hearing. Any calls?
No, Mayor.
All right. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the resolution.
Motion to close the public hearing and to approve the resolution.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Vice Mayor German, to close the public hearing and approve the resolution for the Brownfield Plan Amendment for the 880 First Street Rehabilitation and New Construction Project, and authorizing the City Clerk and City Mayor to sign. All right. Before we go to roll call, I just want to kind of echo some of the feelings of my fellow commissioners and just how much gratitude and appreciation we have for your persistence and perseverance with this project. It's been years in the making, years preceding you, and it's been years with you. And we're so grateful for not only your endurance, but your willingness to work with us. And thank you to our staff as well and our development services team for their persistence on this project and being accommodating and being collaborative. And so I'm just grateful for everybody involved with this. And the presentation was wonderful. The more I learn about it, the more I like it. I liked it before, but I'm really liking what's coming together and what you have envisioned for this property, from the emphasis on the attainable workforce housing, to the green building certification, to the universal design for enhanced accessibility, universal accessibility, to being a mixed-use development to incorporate some of the commercial features as well, and then just the litany of amenities that you have in the project, and then just the thoughtfulness you put into the design itself in terms of how it interacts and interplays with the surrounding environment, as well as to those new residents that are going to be living there. I just think it's been a wonderfully well thought out project and design, and I sure hope it is the first of many that you're going to be able to be a part of, Ms. Scott. And on behalf of the city, just thank you so much for your perseverance, and thank you for choosing to grow with our magnificent city of Muskegon. Roll call, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, we have unfinished business with the transmittal of the 2023 to 2024 proposed budget.
Do you have a motion? I move for the approval of the proposed budget for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Ramsey. Welcome up,
Good
Finance
evening.
Director Kenneth Grant.
Good evening, everyone. We had an additional 2 weeks to look at the budget. The citizens, I did not receive any personal phone calls regarding the budget. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any at this time. Anyone have any questions
Okay.
regarding this?
Before we go into that, because I'm going to be welcoming public comment on this item, we did have this on our agenda 2 weeks ago, and we'd gotten the updated budget with the narrative and the city manager's letter. At that time, the data had been available and published for the couple weeks prior, but the complete budget booklet was then made available that day. We did have a public hearing. And so I'm going to welcome, this isn't another formal public hearing, but I'm going to welcome any public comment on this item at this time, now that our community has had another 2 weeks to review not only the data, but the budget narratives and letter from our city manager and finance director. So I just want to get the phone number back online or on screen so that folks at home can call in when it is opportune to do so. First up, though, commissioners, do you have any questions? Since we met a couple weeks ago, we reviewed this budget during our work session and then had a public hearing at our general session. Have any questions come up since that time that you would like to ask or get addressed? Are there any additional thoughts that have come to mind that you wish to share with us at this time? Is there anything new from our finance director,
I
our
just
city
want to
manager
thank,
that you might
I
want
just
to?
want to thank everyone because it's a very time-consuming thing. I just want to thank the staff, the city manager, all the department heads, my staff that went into putting this together. So I just want to thank everyone because it is it's a team sport.
Indeed. Mr. Manager.
And I want to echo Director Grant's comments. New manager came in and asked them to do the back side of the budget process a little bit differently. So what you guys see on the front end here might not look that much different. There's a little bit of tweaks, but the BS&A side, which is our software that we use, it looks a lot different in there. And there was some learning curve there for staff, and I think it'll pay dividends for us in future years. So I appreciate everyone's flexibility and willingness to work through that process, especially the finance department, because they did some quick study before that started and said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And it worked really well. So thank you, Director Grant, for your willingness to kind of throw caution to the wind and try this crazy manager's idea. And we'll continue to evolve this over time. So,
thank you, Mr. Manager, and thank you for helping us to reevaluate how we do our budgeting processes and come together and how we can tweak it and make it better. Not only make it better from an internal perspective, but I know in your letter that it was attached to this budget is how can we continuously look at improving it and making the budget and that data more digestible and accessible and understandable to the commission and our community at large. And I think that is a worthwhile initiative and endeavor. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of the work that Director Grant, you and your team, and all of our division and department heads have undertaken with this process. It is quite the collaborative undertaking, and it takes quite a bit of time over a number of weeks and months. Yes. So it looks like we might have someone on the line to give public comment. Before I open to public comment, commissioners, do you have one last questions, comments? Okay. Vice Mayor German.
Oh, just, I always have to give Director Grant, congrats, because, me, myself, just trying to put together a budget, and this is so time consuming, and the things that you do and your team. Again, as been already said, you greatly appreciate it here at the city to keep things stable. Yeah. So,
Thank you, Vice Mayor
Yeah.
German. Was there someone that was calling in about the budget?
Do
Or
we
was
have
it another
somebody
item?
on hold for you? So,
All right. Well, we'll
You are
welcome them
ready.
now.
okay. So we have Zelinda, oops, second here. Zelinda Zhang, who is a City of Muskegon resident who wants to make a comment.
Welcome, Ms. Zane. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks with regard to our fiscal year 2023 to 2024 budget.
Go ahead, Ms. Zhang. Ms. Zhang? Ms. Zhang, are you there?
I'll call
There you
back.
go. No, there you are. You're there.
Okay. Hi, this is regarding your past discussions about noise pollution.
Oh,
In deference
Ms.
to
Zhang,
your
no,
concern-
Ms. Zhang, we're speaking about the budget. This is a comment about budgets right
Okay.
now. If you want to call back.
Got it.
Okay,
I
Right.
will.
Thank you.
Sorry.
sorry.
Ms. Zane, if you are listening at home right now, you're welcome to call back at the end of our meeting under general public comment time. This is just with regard to our proposed new fiscal year budget. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to give comment on the proposed budget? All right. Seeing none, then may I ask you, this isn't pertaining to this budget, it's just a little off top. I'll do it under any other business.
Okay.
Yeah, it's related to, just to give you a heads up what I'm asking, it's giving us, because it was on the consent agenda, if you could just give us an overview with regard to year end. We
Yes.
adopted the amendments for year end budget. If you could just give us an overview, so letting you know what I'm going to ask under any
Gotcha.
other
I'm ready. I'm
business.
ready for that.
And give us an overview on the year end wrap up to our budget and our fiscal situation. Okay. No one else on the phone?
No, Mayor.
All right. Now, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor German?
yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And final item for new business, we have distribution of master plan to notice group from our planning department so that we may proceed. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the distribution of the proposed master plan to the notice group for a 63-day review period.
Support.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Hood. Welcome back, Mr. Franzik.
Thank you.
You have a presentation for us on our draft master plan, or?
Yeah, quick presentation about how to view the plan and the process of the 63-day period.
Okay.
All right, so many of you have attended a lot of the workshops over the past 4 years for our master plan. We decided to take this on in-house opposed to hiring an outside firm. It did take us a little bit longer, especially with COVID. We got slowed down quite a bit, but I think that opened up a lot of opportunities for some more great comments to come in. So we've had a chance to work with the community on this, so I think we're at a point where we feel comfortable with everyone, where we've taken into their considerations. And our last rounds of meetings, we feel like a lot of people really agreed with what we're doing. So this is just to open it up. The full plan is on the website so everyone can review. And we want to still take meetings with people if anybody has any concerns and see if we can reach some agreements. If there's any conflicts, we know that might not be possible with everything that we're doing in the city, but we want to get it at a point where we feel comfortable in September bringing it to the City Commission for approval. So the Planning Enabling Act requires that a master plan gets a 63-day review period, and we send that out to the notice group. The notice group includes the Regional Planning Commission, which is the West Michigan Shoreline Redevelopment Commission, the County Board of Commissioners, public utility companies, railroads, and all the municipalities that surround Muskegon will be getting a notice. If this is approved tonight, we'll be sending that out tomorrow. And it'll have a link to how to view the plans and comment. Here's a look at some of the public participation events that we've had over the past 4 years. You know, something we notice when working with consultants, they're not available to come out to these meetings often. Usually get about 3 or 4 of those for a master plan. We were able to have 27 public input sessions. 2019, we weren't able to do much in 2020 because of COVID. A lot of the work shut down too, with some staff being furloughed. But we were able to pick it up again at the end of 2021 with some neighborhood plan workshop meetings. And then last year we had our economic development and business corridor workshops. And then again this year we had a lot of the presentations on what we've come up with and the goals of each neighborhood. So there's 4 major topics within the plan that you'll see under review. There's the housing and neighborhoods section, the transportation, economic development, and natural features and climate resiliency. And every one of these topics has goals and a list of recommendations on how to achieve these. We're not going to run through all of the goals and recommendations, but you can see through the 4 major topics of what those can be. One that sticks out here in the natural features inventory, this is in the climate resiliency chapter, is the first goal, which is to protect the quality of Muskegon Lake watershed. Some ways we can go about doing that, and it goes into more explanation in the plan. Some of these recommendations would be to implement land use regulations that will help filter and clean water before it enters the watershed. There's some different things we could do with that, possibly some low impact design requirements within our site plan reviews. Within a certain area of the watershed, we can work with the county, the conservation district, and Wimser-Dick as well on some of their recommendations on how we can incorporate. They've already done a lot of this work and are making recommendations. Also, to promote sustainable practices through education and outreach. Again, Wimser-Dick has a lot of this information, and so does the Conservation District. There's certain things that we cannot do through zoning, but certain developers that are interested in, they can go out of their way if they'd like to contribute through different low impact design requirements, or whether it's just a rain garden or certain things they can do to help protect the lake. Here's some goals on the economic development. You can see number 2 is one we really wanted to hit home on, is to invest in placemaking opportunities that capitalize on community assets. I'm sorry, that's one of the recommendations. The goal is to create viable commercial corridors and community nodes. That's something a lot of the commissioners talked about, and people were talking about wanting neighborhood commercial options back in their neighborhood. Also areas where the community can gather. So a lot of these neighborhoods we found already have the building blocks, some of these. Ways we can do that is to invest in placemaking opportunities that capitalize on community assets. We see Western Market downtown, and all the activities behind that has really drawn a buzz to the downtown. We think we can replicate opportunities throughout the neighborhoods to bring vibrancy to a lot of these different nodes. We also want to encourage the formation of business districts, business associations, and create development of corridor improvement plans through all of our business districts. We just saw that with the creation of the Pine Street Business Corridor Plan, and some recommendations how they can formally organize into an active business association. We can also support retail development growth and expansion through zoning amendments and economic incentives that encourage a range of potential unit sizes. We have a lot of incubator space, and we have a lot of large space in some of the newer buildings going in, but we lack in a lot of that. So we can do things to incentivize that, whether through its economic tax incentive policies or through zoning incentives, where it could be a give and take, and you may not require so much of the stringent zoning requirements if they're able to provide that need to the community. We also want to promote walkability through pedestrian-focused ground level activities and use microtransit to bridge the long distance. We want active storefronts, we want engaging building spaces, and where it's not feasible, we want to bridge those gaps through downtown and throughout the city with microtransit options, whether that's with our tram or possible bike rentals, scooters, things like that. Our downtown is very vast, and so is the waterfront. There's a lot of cool places to hang out, but sometimes you may need a little bit more incentive not to go back to your car and to keep going. Here's some of the transportation goals. This was too big to fit all of the recommendations on here, but if we look at number 2 is to strengthen walkability, accessibility, and connectivity at major corridors and community nodes. I'd like to partner with MATS to complete improvements to the public realm around the bus stops. This could be improvements to accessibility, ADA ramps, high visibility crosswalks, pedestrian crestings, seating, and crossing signals. Also, to allow transit supportive housing densities that are near these high traffic areas. That's something we also talked about. Wherever the public transportation is, that's also where we should focus the high density residential as well. We also want to partner with MATS to ensure that public transportation options that service newer planned housing, employment, and commercial centers. So we really want to notify them whenever we know that there's going to be a large-scale development and be able to partner with whether it's MATS or the housing section is broken down into 2 different sections. There's the overall recommendations that go over all the recommendations for any neighborhood, and then we have the specific neighborhood development plans, which goes over. On the overall housing plan here, we can take a look at number 3, which is to create walkable community nodes within a short distance of all residents. We talked about that a little bit earlier. We want to find identifiable buildings or places where people already gather and allow different types of mixed uses or even accessory commercial units to kind of activate those areas. Looking a little bit closer at the neighborhood plans for all the 15 different neighborhoods, these are some of the different metrics that we study that's going on in all the different neighborhoods and kind of came up with what the neighborhood may be lacking and what it may be succeeding at. So you can see these different discussing, which is the percentage of the zoning land use in each neighborhood, what type of housing choice there is, the commercial and industrial spaces available. We don't get too much into the parks and rec opportunities because that's in our parks and recs plan, but we do brush on that and to see which neighborhoods may be talking about where there could be improved community nodes in each neighborhood, transportation options, where there may be blight in certain neighborhoods, and also some good things that they may be doing in the neighborhood for beautification. Studied a little bit of historic preservation and the possibilities of that in every neighborhood, and future land use of the properties will be, and identifying. So here's what you'll see in some of the different neighborhoods. Here's Nims, Nelson, and Marquette, where you'll see the charts for the different types of land use. You can see Nelson has a whole bunch of down, so we see a lot of the form-based code, a lot of housing choice. You're going to see mostly housing in their neighborhood. Here's a little look at a couple of different neighborhoods of both the commercial and industrial inventory. In Marquette, we talk about the Getty Street and Marquette Avenue. This has really a lot of the building blocks of a community node. There used to be a lot of commercial options here. There's some really unused and underutilized buildings, some available retail. There's a lot of gathering space with the church and also a large parking lot that can be activated either with outbuildings or food trucks, stuff like that. And infill development and possibly allowing more residential in that area and not just commercial, so it can kind of work together to create that community. There's a rendering later on in the presentation. We have a discussion on the community nodes. In the Oakview neighborhood at the intersection of Madison and Forest, this also has a lot of the building blocks that you would see for a community node. It has a mixed-use building on one corner. It has a church that garners a lot of pedestrian access and pedestrian usage of the building throughout the week. And there's also various missing middle housing located in this area. So we already see some of that density, and this is an area where we see people gather, and there's some certain things we could do with zoning to kind of help encourage to develop that intersection a little bit more. And here's a look. This is from our future land use map. It also has the identification of the community nodes in the circles. So there's two different kinds. There's more of the community, of a neighborhood scale community node, which we just talked about in the Oakview. You can see that with the single circle. And then we have more regional community nodes outside of the neighborhood, and even the city are probably going to gather at. Again, we don't get too much into the parks and rec opportunities, but we do explore it in every neighborhood. In Steele, here's a good example. This is an aerial photo. The green shows publicly accessible land all along 4 Mile Creek. There are certain paths to there, but there could be certain improvements, so we could connect all the way from where the former middle school was, all the way, that's 808 Oak Street, I believe, that recently went up for sale. They actually own some of that property on the north side of the creek there. If we were able to acquire some of that or even get an easement, we could have entire walkable creek bed. We also talk about transportation. Here's a look at Jackson Hill neighborhood. In transportation, we take an assessment of the major streets, possible road diets, active transportation, and public transportation options. And we identify the blight or beautification efforts. Here's one in the Beechwood Bluffton, which does not really have a lot of blight, but boat storage buildings don't tend to be here, and storage, that was heavily noted in the master plan throughout the neighborhood, and we have a rendering here about what could possibly be done with some of the murals on the blank space and hiding some. You can't really screen the entire boat storage, nor would you want to block out landscaping and some minimal screening to area. You look at the possibility of historic preservation in every neighborhood. Angel is one that doesn't have any of our 7 historic districts, but it does have a handful of historically significant buildings and 3 of the oldest cemeteries in the city. So it's something we want to task the Historic District Commission with certain areas where we could add to the historic district. We'd also some of the neighborhoods that maybe don't have as much historic assets in areas where currently it is designated, and it really challenge to some redevelopment efforts. I'd like to identify all of the significant redevelopment properties in the neighborhoods, and there's also a map that shows all of those and how it relates to transportation and public transportation options. To look at a couple that you'll see in the neighborhoods. The top one is the former Brunswick site. It's currently zoned for industrial, but here's an option whether that looked like industrial or this is more of a commercial mixed use option, and it's really the thing to take away with it. It may not look exactly like this, but we want to establish those street connections where we lost wherever that's possible. The picture to the bottom is the picture of the former South Campus for the county, and again, not exactly sure how that redevelopment is going to take place. I'm sure they're going to try to reutilize some of the existing buildings, but there's room for outbuildings and also connecting those former street grids. There's a really cool rendering here if you look closely where the Hartford Avenue connection would be. That's a little too close to Apple Avenue, so that's actually proposed as a pedestrian street. So and every neighborhood is going to have a list of between 3 and 6 proposed projects, and a master plan is supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. So we think this is a section of the neighborhood or the plan where we really want to take a look at every 5 years and see what's come to fruition. What have we found out that's just not going to work, and if there are any new plans at the neighborhood. Here's one at the Lakeside neighborhood. You know, a lot of the focus on Lakeside is on Lakeshore Drive, but this is a nice concept off of Sherman. This is where the marathon is. Torrent and Greenwood Street that doesn't come through. We can't connect the street back to Greenwood. That's where this walkway heads to, but you could have a public walkway, and there's also development options where if we zone commercial in the front, but if you had residential in the back, it could also link up to the two streets that are in the Glenside neighborhood back there and connect those streets and have that walkable public plaza. This is a proposed project in the Campbell Field neighborhood. This is that intersection off of Henry and Sherman, where there's the Walgreens and a lot of strip commercial development. And you know, this plan makes for a lot of calls for public pedestrian improvements, but there's really only so much you can do on busy streets like Henry Street. So we want to look for creative ways where a lot of people in this neighborhood walk to a lot of these areas, and instead of sending them down Henry Street, there's a possibility that we can work with these property owners to get easements in the back to where they wouldn't even have to access Henry Street. And a large parcel that's over 20 acres large. Make that installation. This also calls for the Hudson Street, where there's a lot of undeveloped lots that we project from the Angel neighborhood. This is the former farmers market site, and I know there's been a lot of calls for reopening Green Acres Park. Had some commissioners call for that, and a lot of people from the public. It used to be utilized a lot more. That could simply be done through some path extensions that used to exist there. We also studied the redevelopment housing off. It's contaminated, and the soils really don't support that type of development. So, calling for turning this basically back into an extension of Green Acres Park. It's possible we could find development options to front Murphy Street, but we have so many lots that are available for development right now that have the infrastructure. This doesn't have the infrastructure. And about using this as more open green. And also, down to it when we study this a little bit more, having a connection to the waterfront. It may not exactly be there, but that is a vacated street where you see that possibility to at least get people up. Here's a look at the Marquette neighborhood. This is at Marquette and Getty facing south. That existing yellow building there that exists, I think, recording studio now, and right is the parking lot of the church. Now we wanted to explore some different options, whether it was an accessory commercial unit or maybe it's just food trucks for a while, but this really kind of shows how we could really activate that corner someday, because there's a lot of space at the church, and you know, to activate that a little bit more. Also at the back of the plan, you're going to see all kinds of additional maps. Here's one of our unmotorized transportation map. This shows all of the existing proposed bike trails and walking trails throughout the entire city and where they can connect to. Really cool map of our parks and open space throughout the city. The dark is either a park or an open space like in a ravine. Light green is within 5-minute walkability, so we can see in Muskegon, you're really never too far from open space or somewhere that may not be a park, but walking along a creek bed. Increase those options for people to connect to nature, and also there's calls for wildlife corridor plans too, where we can help other than people help navigate in between. Like in Jackson Hill, they have the 2 creek beds where they have a lot of nature crossing throughout the neighborhood. There's actually some corridor plans we can study and implications that we can make to make that safer. Here's a look at all of the public transportation options that we currently have. This one's probably going. So here are the final steps in adopting the master plan. We've had this online since June 8th. We put out notice that it's on there. We have heard some feedback and worked with people. Planning Commission on June 15th for a recommendation to distribute the plan, and they did so. We're here tonight seeking approval to distribute the plan tomorrow. And then we're going to be offering meetings to anybody that would like to discuss the plan. Whether you've already read it or if you want to walk through it with us, we can help you navigate some of the things that you might be looking at in the plan. And then on August 31st, we're going to have the Special Planning Commission meeting where we'll hold the public hearing after the 63 days. And that will be another recommendation to the City Commission, where we'll come back on September 12th for the final presentation, public hearing, and hopefully adoption. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Franzik. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Franzik, it says June 28th to August 24. We're going to offer meetings to anyone that would like to discuss and comment. Are those going to be group meetings, or are you going to try to sit down with individuals? Like, here's my question. Would it behoove us to plan some group meetings around the presentation itself that people could ask questions? Not like the ones that you did when you were asking for input, but for those clarifying questions, so that maybe you're many birds in one stone. That's probably a bad...
Well, we know that there's some people that have come to these meetings, and we know they still have concerns. So,
Yep, so
we'd like to
those
schedule
people
those and
individual
even
would be
encourage them
great.
to come together.
Yeah, right.
So
Okay, so I just didn't know if there would be something that it might save some time if you did.
we can try to lump them together, but also if you don't know anybody else and you just have your own comments, we're willing to
All
work
right, that's
with you.
fine. Yeah, okay.
And there's a comment box if you don't want to meet with us and just submit it online. You can do that as well.
Great.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. I respect the intent of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I was just trying to make less work for you,
less work
Mike,
for,
even though I always make more work for you.
But that's true. But it's nice that you make yourself and your department available upon request for anyone that wishes to sit down and have a conversation around this. And if you're fielding a number of interested parties, you can always coordinate with them on saying, hey, let's do it on this date. And, if you're welcome to having other people there, we'll have a number of people at the same time. But if you prefer to only meet with me one-on-one, because, they may be shy or, concerns about speaking in front of others.
I think
it's
we'll
nice
try
that
to
you make that available.
Yeah, I think we'll try to do that on a weekly basis. If there's a lot of people, we'll just say there's a group one at 1:00 on Thursday. If you want to meet individually, we can schedule around that.
Can we, speaking of this engagement, can we hold like one before it comes back to us? I know we're gonna have the public hearing, but sometime, not like right on the eve of it, but somewhere in the middle or earlier in the process. Like, could we hold a larger open house, kind of like we had the drop-in at the convention center, where you had all the documents laid out and you had people come give their feedback on there and put post-it notes and this and that. Like, could we? That was one component of the master plan. I think that was focused on the business corridors and the commercial areas and zoning. But like, could we have a larger open house style? People can drop in throughout the day. Ask questions directly of you and your team there, give additional feedback, and then at that time, would you be able to, how would you handle, first of all, let me step back and let you answer that before I bombard you with more questions. Like, would that be something that would be feasible and be inclined to do?
I think that's a great idea. And maybe we have it a little bit closer to August, or early August, so we can maybe incorporate some of these other changes people add recommended, and I think that's where you're going with your next question.
That's
is
exactly where I was going.
how do we incorporate changes?
Yes. Any further feedback
Yeah.
we received, like how would you incorporate that, and would you be receptive to potentially
Yes.
incorporating that before you bring the final, not final, but your final proposed version to the city commission for us to review and then choose to adopt? or
Whatever gets
modify?
changed because of working with people, we will note that at the final presentation, and we will explain how it changed from what was originally presented.
Okay. Sounds good. Commissioner Ramsey.
Mr. Mayor, could you share with Mr. Franzik, since he seems to be open to hearing your voice and not mine, that we had the same idea. We had the same dang idea. Great idea.
That was writ large.
Right.
You've got a lot of little breakout groups.
True story. So as you choose only one that will only serve one neighborhood in our community, make sure that you choose one space that is walkable and or accessible by public transit.
We'll do that, and ADA accessible, and
Which our convention center is. It's a nice centrally located, accessible place within walking distance of our
Good spot.
bus depot.
I'll call you. We can pick it out together, Mike.
Watch it. Thank you, Mike.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments at this time? Vice Mayor German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Director Franzik, thank you for the presentation. And over the years, you look at the plan and you see where you started and then where you're at right now, and I see the progress. And I just, looking at these plans and getting public input and being a person that can advocate for my ward and as the other commissioners do theirs, but as a city as a whole, it seems like we're moving in the right direction. And part of that's, to your staff, the city here, the commissioners I've worked with in the past and the leadership. So continue to do the work, but I think it's really essential for definitely to get the public input and the changes, because different neighborhoods have different issues and problems and stuff like that. They want to see different things. What may work in, I just say, Campbell Field may not work in Angel neighborhood. So got to be mindful and open to those type of suggestions as well. So so that's pretty much my.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody that's contributed. Thank you to Jamie Pesh in our office, who is a major contributor and probably the main author of this as far as getting all the ideas written on the paper. So I don't know if he's here. Thank you to everybody. And to the public. This is everybody's plan, and everybody did come together really well to kind of hash these things out.
Yeah, absolutely. There were quite a few meetings, and to address Commissioner Ramsey, I think, concerned with how we move forward with further engagement. The meetings that you've held have been all across the city. You've gone into neighborhoods throughout the community. You've made yourself accessible. Your team's made itself accessible. You've solicited that feedback. You've received that feedback, and I see it truly reflected in this plan. So I appreciate the considerable amount of work you and our team has done in creating this. And I do want to also draw attention, because I think this, as we move forward with this master plan, this update, I think can help us make further progress with regard to making our city, more embracing more of that complete street design and making our city more bike friendly and pedestrian focused and oriented. And I had just seen that the People for Bikes, the U.S. Bicycling Industries Trade Association, and a national advocacy nonprofit, had announced the results of its 7th annual city ratings, in which 1,484 cities were rated on the quality of their networks for safe and efficient bike riding. And our city of Muskegon was ranked 4th in the state and 37th in the country. 37th out of, I just read it, what was that number? 1,484. 37th out of nearly 1,500. And we're not going to rest on our laurels, though, because we're going to continue to improve, making our community better. And I see that reflected in this, and I'm excited to see what comes to us, back in September.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of that stuff in this plan, so I would like to see us rise up that ranking over the next few years, and I think we will if we implement a lot of these recommendations.
Absolutely. First up, first in the state, and then we'll take on the nation. Commissioner Ramsey, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, yes. I'm just going to co-sign that, Mike. I everything that the mayor just said, because specifically the mayor, when he was still Commissioner Johnson, and I really put a lot of work on you about community engagement, and the product that you have come up with today is truly reflective of everything that you can do. So thank you so much, because I know for a fact that our neighbors see themselves in this document and that they feel excited and heard, which means that the next time we ask them to show up to give feedback and to provide us with ways that we can serve them better, they will rely on saying, oh, well, the last time they said they would do that, they did. And so they'll show up again. So you did great at building relationships and putting this document together. And so did Jamie and whoever else is great. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Any other questions, thoughts, comments, closing remarks? All right. Then we do have a motion, so let's go to roll call.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor German,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Franzik. All right. Next up, any other business? Mr. Manager.
So the ARPA committee has, the ARPA committee's been meeting, and we're going to have another meeting this Thursday. We were targeting to have the selections before you guys on the second meeting in July. However, we're going to have several commissioners absent from that meeting, and so we were wondering if it would be acceptable to the commission if we did a special meeting just focused on awarding the ARPA grants and not trying to shoehorn it into a committee, or sorry, not a committee meeting, but into a commission meeting. We wouldn't necessarily have to pick the date right now, but I would like you guys to think about what that date would be. And between Ann and myself, we can figure out what that would be. And I haven't even actually run that by the clerk, so surprise. But it would probably be a good use of our time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Commissioner Ramsey, I see your red pen.
Yes, I just want to share my support of this suggestion only because either we're going to have one really, really long meeting on a Tuesday and we're all going to leave here hungry, or we can split it up into two, have a short meeting on Tuesday and then go as deep as we need to with this special meeting that really is a huge deal for us, right? So I think that we get to pay the attention that needs to be paid, but it also separates it out. So by the time it is happening, we're not so frustrated that we can't see the forest for the trees.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Commissioners, any other thoughts? Commissioner St. Clair?
Just that I agree. I think giving that a special meeting will allow us to give it the attention that it deserves.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. Vice Mayor German, agree?
Agree.
Commissioner Hood?
But I just
you with
had-
that Vice
Oh,
Mayor
no,
German?
I just had one thing to add, though. Since City Manager Cyphers brought up the ARPA committee, I've gotten some email. Well,
We're going to hold that.
Okay.
Let's wrap this up.
Okay,
You
then
can
I can
raise it under
respond
any
on
other
that. Okay,
business.
all right.
Commissioner Hood, did you have any thoughts, concerns, questions with regard to holding a special meeting focused only on the community ARPA grant process and allocation?
I mean, I guess it just depends on what day it is.
Okay. So,
Same here.
Mr. Manager, Madam Clerk, we're working together on putting out an email to the commission, inviting some dates so we can coordinate, and then knowing what dates don't work, because I know the couple commissioners will be on vacation. I don't know the dates, or I don't know if they're on vacation. They're out of town. There'll be a couple commissioners who are out of town, and that towards the end of July, and so we need to work around that. So, check your inboxes, commissioners, and please share what works for you, so that we can have that special meeting to give it focused attention on those grant applications. Is there anything else, Mr. Manager, on that?
Nope.
Okay.
We'll get it. We'll find a date.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other business? Vice Mayor German.
Thank you, Mayor. Just going back and revisiting the committee that Manager Cyphers brought up. I've gotten some calls and concerns about the process of how the committee is operating and reviewing the applications. And I won't go into details, but it was brought to my attention that a couple of them was actually thrown out due to the fact that they wasn't completed, and they pulled so many of the applications and reviewed a couple. I just want to get an idea of what the process is supposed to be like. Also, to be transparent, I have an organization as well, and I submitted a application also, and it was stated that it was a conflict of interest. And the question would be, I guess I would like to ask the city attorney, legal counsel, and the city manager, what defines a conflict of interest for applying for that specific grant, and was there an legal counsel or attorney there to constitute that?
I'm just sorry, just real quick, Vice Mayor. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the opera committee and the process of how things was handled, and I mean, my phone blowed up quite a few times. And some people were very unhappy about the process. So I just want to make sure that we're being transparent. And I just wanted to also be transparent because as an elected official, that organization that I co-founded and is the head of, I applied also. So just to let the public know that there's no special interest, I just try to be as transparent. But the operations, I guess, of how things are going with the process. Are we being fair? Are we being equitable? Because some are looking to, come and talk about this in public.
So, well, I was going to say, in terms of the question of conflict of interest, you can confer with our legal counsel, and he can give you an assessment.
Yeah.
I would say, in terms of your application itself, at a minimum, you would not be able to vote. At a minimum, whether or not he has additional input in terms of how our staff, because our manager, one of the people that you are supervising as this body, as part of that committee making recommendations to itself, how that interplays, that's something that he's going to have to reflect on and give thought to. But my question for you in terms of your organization, because this may make it a moot point with regard to whether or not there's a conflict of interest and how to navigate that, is did your organization exist in March of 2020?
Actually, it was 2019 when it existed.
So your
I would like
organization
to.
was founded in 2019 as a recognized 501c3?
Exactly. I think it was during that time of COVID. So, and that's what I would like to have legal counsel. I guess for something to be stated as a conflict of interest, legal counsel, Cipher, what would validate that? To be a conflict of interest, and I'm asking legal counsel.
Do you want to weigh in at this time? Would you wish to?
Probably a better course, because we would also address how to waive conflicts if a conflict exists. Because I need more information from Commissioner German.
Okay.
And we certainly can put in writing probably, but to reiterate your point, I mean, certainly Commissioner German is not going to be able to vote
exactly
relative to the nonprofit that he has established and has a relationship with. He certainly can participate in the process and be part of the rest. But we could,
well, if you're conflict, you can't even engage in the deliberation.
As to his,
but the rest,
But
okay,
the rest.
okay.
Yeah. And the conflict of interest that was discussed in the committee meeting specifically was, and this was a general discussion, was that if there were organizations that had applied of which committee members had some type of connection to, or connection to the individuals who were applying, the committee members were asked to do a self-selection to not rate those organizations. And we did a weighting structure so that way it wouldn't negatively weight if only 5 of the 6 or 4 of the 6 or whomever were rating them. So there were 2 that I self-selected out as a conflict of interest, yours, because you're one of the 7 commissioners that I report to, and the U.S. Silversides, because my father serves on the board. So I self-selected out of rating those 2. There were other there were other committee members who self-selected out of rating some of the applicants because one, there was a familial connection. Is that the only other one, Pete? Okay. So there was another one with another familial connection. So that was the conflict of interest of which we spoke about in the committee. So regarding the process that we went through, every application was reviewed by the committee. Everyone who submitted an application was reviewed by the committee. They were broken up into 2 groups based on the staff initial review on how it lined up with certain goals and objectives and with the reporting requirements that we needed to have. Ones that there might have been some question about, the committee did review, and we had detailed discussions about ones that committee members wanted to review further, and several of those were pulled forward for a more detailed full review and rated. But everyone who did submit an application did get reviewed by the committee, and the committee had full access to all their application materials.
Okay, and just to follow up, because I have a couple other topics though, just to close this out, but I just want to get clarity and just to make sure, because I'm going to have to address this to people that applied, and I guess it would be a good idea to have a correspondence letter or something to have in detail why they were not approved or rejected or anything like that. Something that kind of gives them some insight why their proposal was not approved. But the other thing is on the grant application itself, there was no information saying that who could apply. Basically, if you had a nonprofit organization, and looking at the fact that, yes, as elected official, I wouldn't be able to vote or anything like that, and I was going to talk to legal counsel about that as well, which perfectly makes sense. But when you're looking at a nonprofit, that's considered a corporation. Am I correct? Not the individual myself.
Correct.
So I mean, is there somewhat discrepancy to look at that as being somewhat biased? You know,
I mean, simply because it's a corporation that would equally exclude anyone who has a member, a controlling interest, a participation with that corporation, with that entity.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Subject to, I mean, if you own one share of GM, that doesn't mean we can't make a deal with GM.
Right. And I wanted to hear that from a legal counsel, and just to get clarity on that. Okay, so that person makes sense. Okay, moving on, and I'll finish up here. Couple complaints, and Chief Counsel is not here, but there was concern about the Police Citizen Review Board and the redacted, reports that the review board, members of the review board felt that they don't have full access to. This was brought to my attention by some board members there, so I just kind of wanted to get some insight on that also. And if I could get a follow-up or hear back from our chief.
Have you reached out to Chief Kozel directly on
I just got this information.
Okay, I would encourage you to reach out to Chief Kozel.
I thought maybe he would be here at the meeting.
Directly and ask him as to, I mean, it could be very well be personal sensitive information. Or material that's, or information that's material to an ongoing investigation that couldn't be shared. So please reach out to Chief Kozel directly for insights.
And just one last thing. Had a lot going on this month. I just want to say, partnering with the Muskegon Hikes out there, and Jennifer Ross, she put on an excellent event out there at Mona Lake for the Juneteenth National Independence Day that really well. And then also the mayor did a good job on the presentation for presenting Mr. Sim Ray and for the old Smith Ryerson community center. So that was a good thing. So just to let the public know and inform them. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, there was a great turnout for
Yeah,
that
yeah, it
dedication
really
of the
was,
Simray
yeah.
Community Center. Scores of people, and we had to do we had a free showing of the Black Manta documentary as well, made by John Covington, who is the godson of Simray. So there's a nice family connection there as well.
Yeah, that's it for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Mayor German.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any other items for any other business? Commissioner Emery.
For our city manager, I would like an update on the gift cards, where we're at with it.
Yes. Let me pull up the email. And then I think the mayor had a follow-up email to the email. So let's see. So there was $192,000 of gift cards that were purchased, and of that, $50,000 roughly has been used for various things. Some of them were used for the city manager interviews. We've used them for election meals and things of that nature. So $50,000. No. Oh, sorry.
That's the
Oh, sorry.
donation.
Yep.
The other one is shows the this
Okay.
one. So that's
Sorry.
what's remaining.
Oh,
right
sorry.
there.
That's what's remaining.
But we do have
This
a
was
$50,000
before my time. I just want to say that.
Yes, this was not under your.
So I'm so. Yeah. Sorry. Jokes aside. So $76,000 is the balance there.
176.
Sorry, 176.
176,000.
No.
$176,880 is what remains in
Yes.
gift cards in
Yes.
the safe.
Yes.
Let's go. Let me help you. Let me
There
help
we
you.
go.
There we go. Thank you.
Some of
Okay,
which-
so we start off with 192,000. So, and I think Jake Eckhom, we went out to the community to get some money that back. They gave us 50,000 back. So we subtract that off that balance. That brings us down to 142. We had some internal transfers for like elections and things like that to help out with our election workers and the fee. So, and then we charge that to the clerk's office. So the total balance, if you go down to page 2, is we have 126,880 left.
But we haven't. So just to clarify, there we've received the 50,000, but we've not applied it to any of the gift cards. So
Yeah,
the committee
we just-
needs to reconvene as to decide how we're proceeding. If we're doing a pro rata discount on each of the gift cards so that
Yes.
we can sell them. And whether to what extent we're going to continue to sell them internally or allow our departments to buy them internally, because as has been mentioned, our city clerk office has bought cards from our Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund. They've used their budget to buy the cards so that they can pay for meals for election workers and other special city events like the manager's open house. But the committee does need to reconvene so it can make a recommendation to the city commission as to how to be done with these gift cards in terms of which are going to be used internally, being purchased from ourselves internally, and which ones might have to be erased, in which case that's where, because some of those businesses no longer exist, that's where the $50,000 is really going to come into play and help mitigate those cards that were with businesses that no longer exist, which there are a few of them. Fortunately, most of these businesses still exist. We're grateful to have their ongoing survivorship in our city and serving our residents and guests. But that we don't have a date. We do need to. That was my follow-up emails. We need to get a date.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Hood, this can be one of your parting gifts. I know you were on that committee. So this can be one of your parting gifts to our community, is wrapping this up and getting a recommendation to the City Commission so that we can come up with a final plan for handling these cards. But otherwise, all of those cards that remain are in a safe.
Yes,
And
they're in the
accounted
finance,
for.
yes.
Okay. And so in terms of what we've spent or used, it is only about 16,000 that we have bought amongst ourselves and spent and used. Otherwise, the balance is still in a safe. Commissioner Ramsey?
Yep, I thought I had it, and now I do not. So I would like to start over, and someone tell me where I misunderstood. There was 192. We've spent 16,000. All on the up and up. Nobody stole it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, and then we got an additional 50 from community. So that 50 brings it down to 142.
If we erase those cards, but we have not made any.
Right. No. But of the bucket of money, there's 50 that would bring the total down to 142. The reason that I got confused was because he mentioned the 50 before the 16, and then when you mentioned it, you said, but the 50 hasn't been applied. So I didn't know if it was 142 minus 50 or if the 50 was already minused.
When we purchased that, we put that against the balance.
Gotcha.
So
okay, yep.
we
Nope,
took
I'm
that
there.
off. Okay.
I am there. Lunch for everybody.
You buying the cards from us?
Yeah. At a greatly reduced rate.
Yeah, probably.
Auction them off.
And that's what the committee will be evaluating and making that recommendation to this commission is how to proceed. But to date, we have not been discounting our purchases. There's been discussion of making these available for sale on a discounted basis. There's a limitation to how much we can discount, and that's again where that 50,000 or a portion of the 50,000 will come into play to help us make that available at a lower cost. But in terms of our internal purchases, and when the clerk buys them to pay for lunches for election workers, she's paying full. We're paying full freight. Our clerk's office is paying the full nominal value of those cards, buying from ourselves. So while we may eventually make them available on a discounted basis to the community, we are paying full price internally.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did you have anything to add, Mr. Manager?
I'm
Do you have
good.
anything to add, Director Grant?
Nope, I'll be glad when this is over.
Same.
Thank you,
Commissioner
gentlemen.
Everett, any follow-up
No,
questions?
I'm good.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah, it'll be nice when we no longer have those cards in our safe and we're
Yes.
just done with this. Okay. Commissioners, any other items to bring up under any other business? All right, I do have a few. I'm going to try to go through them quickly. Want to mention? Oh, Director Grant, don't go anywhere. Oh, okay. Just wondering if you can just give us a top line, overview in terms of where we're looking to wrap up this fiscal year. It's just got a few days left. I know we had some amendments on our consent agenda with regard to this fiscal year wrap up.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if you can just summarize.
I just want to preface this by, when we do a budget, it's like a crystal ball. We're trying to project in the dark and things like that. So a lot of times when we put a budget together, some unforeseen things happen. Just like last year, for example, we had a major capital project that the auditors from the arena moved from one fiscal year to another year. So I start off the year on a bad note, like $600,000 in the arena. So that's one of the reasons why we had to do some transfers to the arena, because it's just the shifting of money was just, so things like that happen. Unexpected expenditures happens throughout the year. Sometimes we get revenues that we don't count on. We got some opioid money. We got things like that. We had a lot of lawsuits this year. So we had a lot of things going on this year that impacted our budget. So some of the good things that happened, our income tax is continually be strong. Last year we collected a little more than 10 million. This year I think we're going to be 11 million, maybe 11.5. We just have to wait because it's an accrual process. June 30th is the last day of our fiscal year, but just because of that, our due dates for federal income tax purposes is not due to July, so we have to accrue those funds. So a lot of times we may collect another $1 million or so that we could put on the books for this year, but it's so hard to tell because we're still 30 days, 60 days out. One thing is, as you see throughout the community, we see a lot of construction going on. So a lot of our permits have gone up, but with the permits, we have a safe belt contract that we have to pay them a percentage of that. So even though the revenues are going up, we still have to pay a percentage off to safe belt. So if we increase something by 100,000, 82% or so may have to go to safe belt for their expenses. So you will see the expenditures and you see the revenues offset. The revenues are offset by expenditures. So those are some of the things: the income tax, the permits, and like heating, plumbing, We have rental property revenue expenditures going up. We have miscellaneous revenues. But along with that, this year we had a lot of unexpected expenditures. A lot of our staff, police, command, union, and regular unions and non-union people got nice contracts or raises this year. So that was kind of, we projected the budget originally with a 3% increase, but a lot of people got almost 8% across the board.
Well worth it, especially considering inflation.
Yeah, but inflation is taking. So we had, with inflation, we were seeing some loss in interest revenue and things like that. So it's unexpected. But overall, I think we're going to, I was talking to the city manager the other day, we may be in the red a little bit, but it's so hard to tell where we're going to be in the red. Just based on this fourth quarter, just in the general fund, our revenues went up 300,000, but our expenditures went up almost 1.23. So we may be in a little deficit this year, but we do have a strong fund balance, so we may have to dip into that a little. But I was telling today, I went to the state website. I think our constitutional money is up maybe 200,000, maybe 300,000. So those things that I didn't even realize before I did this into today. So overall, I think the general fund may be in a little bit of a hole this year, but we do have a strong fund balance.
So most of that dramatic, the 1.2 million, I think you said, increase in expenditures for the fourth quarter that we experienced in the fourth quarter. The lion's share of that was that outside transfer or transfer to the arena fund. That has been typical in recent years at year end, but like we discussed a couple weeks ago, we're not expecting those huge.
I hope this year, hopefully I projected in the budgets. I think we're only projecting to do 350 or 400,000 to the arena instead of more than 900,000 that we did this year. So that would help. And so those things like that. We went through some minor things. We had to make some minor adjustments. Right now, the public improvement fund is looking great because we are selling a lot of those infill houses and from the ARPA things, and so we're putting the funds in there. The revenues are in there. We did have some unexpected expenditures on more than 100,000 from that. That was just construction costs, but our revenues were up significantly, so we did make note of that. So overall, I think it's just very hard to budget going 12 months ahead, and we just have to continually make adjustments. That's why we do these quarterly forecasts.
So overall, year end, those final days, and of course you said that may still continue accruing into July, that can be counted towards this.
We still have two state revenue, like constitutional payments that we haven't received yet.
Okay. Still two payments for this fiscal
We got
year?
2 of those. We should be receiving that any data, and then we record. I think we have cable franchise fees that we haven't got yet. Income tax is still accruing for another 60 days. So we do have, I was just looking at, I think we have another $2 or $3 million in revenues coming in for the next 60 days that we have to record.
So it's looking like either we'll be breaking even or possibly.
I think we're, to be honest, I think we're going to be a little bit in the red.
Okay.
But I just, it's hard to tell how much we're going to be in the red.
Okay. Not 6 figures in the red.
I think it may be like it may be like 900,000 in the red.
$900,000 in the red for a year. Okay, which the arena
took all of. Pretty much. Those kind of like the city manager, like that's kind of things like that. 900,000 that we sent to the arena. That's a big. 600,000 that was unexpected.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so we could end up being down for the year. I mean, we
Yes.
still have a very healthy general fund.
Yes.
I didn't see that number in the amendments. I wasn't sure what we were looking at for year-end wrap-up.
Yeah, and when I first sent that was positive, then I started looking at these numbers like, oh, this is adding up fast, and I informed the city manager. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. And then 2 other things, one of which is commissioners. Earlier in the night, we had heard about the RAP grant that we were successful in securing. That was $6 million, $3 million allocated to the Lakeview Lost Phase 2, or for Phase 2, $3 million for the 881st Street, which we approved tonight in terms of the grant and sub-grant recipient resolution. And then we had also approved a application or conveyed our support as a body collectively for RAP Grant 2.0 tonight. So I've also received a request from an organization in our city, Muskegon Museum of Art, for me to provide a letter of support for their RAP grant application. They are applying for, I think, public infrastructure and placemaking grant. Our Hackley Park and the Hackley Square one is in the same category of grants that they're being applied for. I told the director of the Muskegon Museum of Art that I was uncomfortable acting unilaterally on providing a letter of support because this commission was being asked to act collectively on our city's own RAP grant applications. But I said that I would bring it to the commission to have the commission weigh in and give thoughts as to whether or not you give your countenance to me to provide a letter of support, because any of these RAP grant applications require the highest ranking official of the municipality in which the grant is being requested. And so without a letter of support with my signature, apparently that grant from the Muskegon Museum of Art would be rejected outright. They're applying for $1 million. They hope they can get $1 million, but they said, even if they're not getting $1 million, the minimum award would be very beneficial and helpful. They're trying to close out, they've got $1 million gap remaining for the financing of their expansion, and they're trying to close out that final gap. And so they've asked for a letter of support, but I wanted to bring this to the commission. Commissioner Hood?
Excuse me, Mayor. Did you say Muskegon Art Museum?
Muskegon Museum of Art, yes.
Okay.
And so they're in process of their expansion. I think their expansion project, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like $12 million expansion, maybe a little bit more. I know inflation, costs have gone up. And I think that's part of the reason also why they're having this funding gap, because costs have gone up. And they've had to do some, I forget the word, like kind of efficient engineering or engineering redesign to value engineering to try to cut out some costs. So even after doing some value engineering, they're still short and hoping to take advantage of this RAP grant program as well. And so I wanted to bring it to your attention, Commission, and get your feedback as to whether or not, and the applications are due this Friday, so time is of the essence at the same time. They were hoping to submit their application last week, I was not, like I said, I was not comfortable providing that letter last week for them to submit their application, and told the director that I would be bringing this to the Commission's attention tonight to get your input. So, Commissioner Hood.
I say go ahead. That's all.
Yep, thank you, Commissioner Hood. Commissioner Ramsey?
I have a couple of questions. I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor, this is a competitive grant, correct? This is a competitive grant?
This is, yes, but in terms of the particulars of the grant program, I would feel more comfortable deferring to our director, our Development Services Director, Jake Ekholm, on the particulars of the grant.
Good evening. So, pursuant to RAP 2.0, this is a competitive grant. It's a $100 million pot of money from the state of Michigan. It is not ARP funds the same way RAP 1.0 was. So the provisions for letters of support as we understand them, so just a slight clarification, in the event that the municipality doesn't issue a letter, it does not mean that that is dismissed out of hand. They can have up to 4 letters of support from what they define in the grant narrative as relative agencies. So that could be other agencies as well that are relevant to their application, and they get 2 points per relevant letter that's signed by the highest authority of that agency. So it doesn't need to be the city, it can be the city, just as a point of clarity.
That's good clarification.
That's our understanding as of
previously.
Research on that, and I'm
All
going
right.
to look at Pete.
We did a lot of research. I was just about to bring.
I didn't get an update from staff.
No,
I asked staff
it was
for
today that we were
insights. Okay,
Yeah.
those are good
reclaim my
insights. Commissioner Ramsey, follow up.
I have several follow-ups. Thank you, Jake. That makes a lot of sense. So, being that it is a competitive grant, but that we do know there is a very large bucket of money, Mr. Mayor, has the museum provided you with a template that they want you to like embellish and blow up Whenever someone asks for a reference, the first thing we do is say, "You send me what you want me to say, and I'll make it better where I can."
Yeah.
Depending on
That's
the
how I
truth of the
prefer,
situation.
yes.
Yes, me too. So have they shared with you something like that?
Some highlights and talking points, but not a letter.
Great.
So my thought was, if the commission did support it, then we would task staff, and I know Director Wills has been great at writing similar letters in the past, where you finesse it a certain way, where you're not undermining ourselves or our position at the same time that we are conveying, some level of support for a third-party position or narrative.
Right.
And so, if the commission felt comfortable, then I would think that we would task him to draft that letter.
So I wouldn't dream of telling anyone how to do their job, but when a grant comes across my desk and it's in a competing situation, and I have two agencies that leverage the work that the other is doing in a collaborative way. So would it behoove us to say, hey, we're going to write a letter of support for the art museum, because they're working in the same footprint to better and build out, that we're going to be intentioning our dollars in as well. So as we move forward, we're going to have a bit bigger impact with longer lasting effects because of the concerted effort in that footprint, which is all 3rd Street, the Hackley admin building, and then the museum. Like, that's a great opportunity. So if we can do something like that and be able to call out the collaborative efforts that would result in both of us being funded, I would 100% support that letter. And I'm sure there wouldn't be, we can do that.
Yeah.
So I support that.
Yeah. I think if we get all of that money, both our applications and theirs, I think we'd always welcome that.
Hit it.
That came up today. Director Ekholm?
I think it would be beneficial if I gave several points of context. And I want to make it clear, staff is not giving an opinion one way or the other as to whether or not the mayor should issue that letter. And there's the $100 million pot of money. RAP 1.0, as I mentioned earlier in a previous item, we did quite well. We received $6 million of $83 million that was given out. 12 and some change was withheld as admin by various state agencies. And then there were $490 million in asks for RAP 1.0. We anticipate that this will be similar. In addition, they changed some things between 1.0 and 2.0. One is they assigned pots of money based on prosperity regions. So our region is Region 4. It's a multi-county region, and it has a $13 million pot of money. So our institutional ask that we're making is several $1 million for those assets that Commissioner Ramsey mentioned. There's also a regional application for placemaking projects that's being sponsored by 3 economic development organizations: the Right Place for Kent County, Lakeshore Advantage for Ottawa County, and GMED for Muskegon County. We did not participate in that because, as was mentioned, our 2 development projects and our 1 placemaking project kind of encompass a campus, and so our narrative reflects that. So that's just some context for you as you move forward making the decision. Another point that I'd like to bring to your attention that just came up today, we had an 8 a.m. call. Adelaide Point requested a call through their consultant. They are also pursuing a RAP application for RAP 2.0 for placemaking at their campus. So a lot of the parks improvements that they're making on their peninsulas and some other costs in that area, they were hoping to utilize this grant program, and they also requested a letter of support from the city today. We told them that we needed to speak to management and that there was this other entity, we didn't say who it was, that it also sought a support letter too, and we weren't sure which way the legislative body of the city was going to go on that. So they're also requesting a letter of support and are awaiting an answer. Just to kind of thicken the plot a bit.
Yes, that's new information.
It is.
With regard to Adelaide Point's request of a letter. Vice Mayor German.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Director Ekholm. Now, we're talking about just a letter of support. Against a letter of support, if passed, the city of Muskegon will not be getting any funding or anything like that. This is just a letter of support. Basically, what we're talking about, not like the RAP 1.0, where we got the $6 million and then $3 million was allocated to 880 with Clay Street.
Yeah, so I can clarify that a bit. So in this instance, in RAP 2.0, we've applied for 3 specific projects in 1 application. two development projects, one being Catholic Charities, which is our facility as of now, which is under due diligence for a redevelopment with a private party. So it would be a portion of money to facilitate that redevelopment of that mixed-use project in 3rd Street. Another one is the Hackley Admin Building. So there's serious structural issues with the Hackley Admin Building related to its roof and its structural integrity. So for preservation of that building, that institutional building there across from Hackley Park, that's considered a development project because it's a building in brick and mortar preservation. And then electrical upgrades and other upgrades to Hackley Park, which have long been kind of gamed out in our parks budget, but have always been deferred in lieu of other projects. So we wanted to make substantial improvements there. So the city would benefit with the Hackley Park improvements. That's our asset that would receive those dollars directly. The other two would be conveyed to third parties for their institutional remodels of their buildings. And so slightly different than our first go around. So what the request, as I understand it, from the Art Museum and now from Adelaide Point is letters of support which generate them additional points in their applications for their projects. And so the difficulty that we've been placed in as a municipality is typically when state agencies have competitive processes like these, they require private parties to apply through a municipality. So as an example, the Eagle Grant and Loan Program that you guys approved earlier tonight for Harbor 31, we've done them for Adelaide Point, we're looking at one for Shaw Walker. Those have to run through a city as a fiduciary responsibility, but the applicants are the beneficiary. So cities are not competing with private entities in that program. The other programs that are made available in some cases, cities are specifically disallowed from being the applicant and only private entities can apply. It's designed so that we don't have to compete against other projects in our community that we may advocate for. This program's a bit different in that it's placing us in direct competition with worthy projects that maybe aren't our projects, but they are in the community, so that we're in an awkward situation.
And I guess my next question, just to wrap up, because I know we did allocate $1 million to the museum through the opera fund, and that was due to the COVID impact in the communities, stuff like that. And I guess I'm just trying to see now at this phase and stage, how is that related to any, now that COVID's over, how does this relate to the impact in COVID-19 at this juncture?
Sure, that's a good question. So ARP 1.0 was directly related to impacts from COVID-19. So the first round of grant was used, as I mentioned, state of Michigan's ARPA allocation was used to fund that, and you had to tie specific provisions of your grant application to impacts from COVID. And then what happened effectively was that program was so popular, as I mentioned, $490 million in asks to a $100 million pot of money, that the state decided to utilize some of its existing budget surplus to fund a second round and try to spread more dollars around to help positively impact placemaking and development projects. So this RAP grant does not tie into COVID as intensely as 1.0 did.
Okay, and that was my concern, and I do know it also can be related to historical structures, like the museum has been how many years old is that museum? I'm not sure. It was here over 50 years ago, I know, and probably longer since I was a kid. So yeah, I just wanted to get some clarity on that. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Sherman.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any other questions, thoughts, input as to how we might proceed on this with regard to this request? Commissioner St. Clair.
I don't know that I have any questions. I have some thoughts. I wonder if any of these grants are approved, it would benefit the community pretty significantly. I don't think any of them are bad options. And while I understand that we would like to stack the deck for our own projects, I kind of feel like these are all our projects that we own. So I think that I would be willing to support signing a letter of support for either of the suggested opportunities because they do give directly back to the community. And hopefully our grant writers are better than theirs.
They were successful last year. Let's make magic happen again this year.
I don't think we can lose with this, though.
Thank you, Commissioner St. Clair. Any other thoughts? I mean, I heard Commissioner Hood. Does your position remain at the beginning?
Yes.
I get a sense for Commissioner Ramsey. He
Support
sees
them
the
all.
benefit of it.
No one is so rich as to throw away your friend. And like the commissioner so eloquently said, all it's going to do is strengthen our community at any opportunity. And if we get to be seen as coming for all of us, I guarantee you that our funders are going to notice that and think of the impact that they could have here.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Commissioner Gorman, Commissioner Emery, Vice Mayor German. You want to add any thoughts, or whether you agree or disagree, or anything else you want to add?
Thank you for those that spoke about it. I was a little confused. Okay, are we gonna have this big war on who's getting the grant? But thank you, because that added insight to it.
I mean, this just expresses that we support all these projects. So they're all beneficial. They're all good for our community, and we'll leave it to the state to decide who gets what and how much, and maybe we all get something. Commissioner Gorman.
Director Echolm, what was the clarification then again of a letter from the city does help, but
Yeah,
the point system, sorry, can you just say it again?
Sure. So it sounded, I'm not positive, it sounded though maybe the mayor was under the impression that if there was not a support letter from the municipal jurisdiction that the applicant was in, then the application could be dismissed out of hand. That's not accurate. So we are one of several what we would define as relevant agencies that the grant parameters give, and you get 2 points per relevant support letter up to 4 letters, so up to 8 points. And so we can be one of those, certainly, and we would generate 2 points for each of those applicants. They would, I'm sure, certainly go and find 3 more agencies to. That's the same thing we did, and so.
But it's by agency then. So if there's any entity requesting individual letters of support from anybody on the commission, and if they're getting a letter, which it sounds like we're supportive of, like that's not going to give them 4 points then total. It'll just only points from.
It has to be
agency.
from the highest ranking official at each agency. So therefore, I, as an applicant, could not go to 3 commissioners and the city manager and the mayor and have all those count separately. They have to be agency specific.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Vice Mayor German.
Yeah. Thank you, Director Echo, for explaining that. And I mean, it would definitely look good to have a unanimous consensus. And given the fact that now that you've actually gave me some, again, clarification on how this process worked, and this one was not as intense related to COVID as the RAP 1.0 is, I can see the benefit of supporting this. I just wanted to make sure that I understood it. So,
Sounds like there's sufficient support on the commission for me to proceed with signing additional support letters.
Yes.
All right. I'll confer with the city manager on proceeding with those letters post meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Director Echolm. Finally, this is an announcement for our community, and as our commissioners may have seen as well, that it was announced on Facebook this past week that our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee is welcoming applications to serve on that body. It is, refresh my memory, what is the deadline for nominations or applications? July 20-something, I can't remember.
Yes.
Anybody? Sorry, let me pull this up right quick.
It's a race.
27th. Okay, July 27th. You can go online to the city's website, or you can check our recent Facebook page. If you go out on ShirleyCity.com, if you go to then City Services up in the banner, then go to Boards and Committees. Click on Boards and Committees, and there you'll see a list of all of our different boards, commissions, and committees that work in concert with our staff and our commission. Our city commission. So look down that list, find the Parks and Recreation advisory commission, and then you can submit your committee. You can submit your application online. And if you are not available, anyone watching at home, if you are not able to access this online, you can come down to the city clerk's office and complete an application to serve on that committee as well. We are accepting 2 citizens from each ward. We have 4 wards, as well as an at-large citizen, and then we'll be appointing a member from the commission, as well as a member from Muskegon Public Schools. So this Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee will be working in concert with staff to make recommendations to the city commission as we build out our revived Parks and Recreation Department. And so a planning process, as we heard earlier from Mr. Franzik, there wasn't a great deal of detail or focus on Parks and Recreation in that plan necessarily, because we are pursuing and getting underway our own Parks and Recreation master planning process. And so even if folks at home in the audience, you choose not to be part of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, you will have ample opportunity to be involved with the process of the planning and the build-out of our park system so that it best serves our community today and going forward into the future. So please look into that if you are interested and submit an application. So with that said, unless there's any other items for discussion from the commission, I would entertain a
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment. So
Motion
sorry.
rescinded.
We had a so sorry. We have a person wishing to give public comment. Let's get the phone number online as well. So first up for public comment in the audience, we have Miss Ann Vandermolen joining us from the City of Roosevelt Park. Welcome, Miss Vandermolen. You have up to 3 minutes to provide your remarks.
Welcome. There's a laptop here. I guess I can move around it. Okay, when I started speaking here last year, I advocated for a forum against violence. I'd still like to have something in Jessica Herringa's name. She waited on me at the gas station. I had a routine. I'd get Egg Roll House takeout. Then I'd go to Jessica's gas station and get a Mountain Dew. The last time I saw her, I was coming home from the mall and stopped to get a Mountain Dew at Jessica's station. That night I pulled up and saw a man stand by the register. I froze in my car for a little while because I thought she was getting robbed. After a little while, I finally got up the nerve to go in. I thought that she might need my help, and so I finally went in. I was really relieved to see that it was her boyfriend that was standing here and her little boy. Her little boy was maybe 2, and he was right to my right as I stood at the cash register. I was so relieved, and Jessica gave me a big smile like usual, and I gave her one. When I left her that night, she was safe and sound. She went missing a little while after that, and I was crushed. I cared about her. She was the woman with the big smile who rang up my Mountain Dew. So when Tracy Lorenz was violent with me a few months after that, the first person I thought of was Jessica Herringa, and that maybe she could have had someone grab her head and scream at her. I think our community needs a forum to discuss Jessica. Maybe we could pray. I don't think I'm the only one who's been affected by what happened to her. And Rebecca Bletch and the girl that got away. I don't think many men in this town understand how this has affected many women in our community. I also think that the Sexual Assault Task Force could describe what they're set up to do. I think our community needs to come together in Jessica's name and also Rebecca's name and the other girl's name, and for every other girl, black or white or any other color or ethnicity that's gone missing or been killed in our community. Jessica was beautiful. I'll never forget her smile. So I wish that somebody could work with me on that. And I'm going to be I've already talked to the Norton Shores City Council once, but I plan on going back to them eventually. And I ask them to watch these videos and stuff. And so that's my ultimate goal, is to do something in Jessica Herringa's name. I miss her. I don't miss her every day, but she was beautiful.
Thank you, Ms. Vandermaal.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Anyone else in the audience wish to give public comment at this time? Is there anyone on the phone that wishes to give public comment? Is that Ms. Zane joining us again?
It is. Let me get her back up here. Ms. Zane, I do have you on the line. Are you there? I know. Can you hear us? Right there. So now, Ms. Zane?
Yes.
There you go. You can go ahead. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. Manager, Honorable Commissioners, and Madam Clerk. This is regarding past agenda discussions about your determination to take action against the plague of noise pollution. I represent myself and scores of others in town, asking you to add to that list the noise of personal fireworks. Some have rocketed up to 170 decibels, and the decibels increase every year. Yet the human hearing threshold is only 100 decibels. To put that in perspective, 100 decibels is even louder than jackhammers and jet engines. Okay, what about the animals and birds all around us? Their suffering starts even lower at just 70 decibels. What sounds like loud to us causes piercing pain inside their ears. It is literally a ferocious assault on them. From bees to horses and many of our pets, they experience these 100 decibels over their pain threshold as a coming certain death, Armageddon, if you will, from which they must escape. And in their wild panic, they sometimes run and never find their way home, or they run headlong into danger on the streets. Now, you have probably heard that fireworks noise is also traumatizing to PTSD sufferers, including many of our vets who have experienced combat, plus violence victims. Add to that list patients with mental disabilities, including those with Alzheimer's, autism, schizophrenia, and dementia. Confusion and fear reign for them at this time. Add persons who have hearing, nervous, and sensory disorders, and those who are simply sick at the time. Add parents, farmers, and pet shelters trying to calm their babies, kids, and animals. And the misery to those who simply need to sleep and work the next day. But do we even care that our pleasure is their pain? Do we? We believe that many would if they just knew these facts, and that's where you come in. For the greater health of everyone in town, you can educate the community to this knowledge on your social media and ask people to compromise by buying only silent or low sound fireworks, which are more visually beautiful anyway. So please, take our plea seriously and deep into your hearts, and let me know that you're good with adding this message to your social media. Simple. or if not, remembering what's happening to the above mentioned.
Thank you, Ms. Zane. You have actually run out of time, but we appreciate your comments. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zane. All right, is there anyone else on the line for phone-in comments?
There is not.
All right, now we have a motion from Commissioner Ramsey to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner St. Clair. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you. Take care and be well.
Oh!